Hello friends. So today's video is going to be a list of books that I have been declined for in getting as ARCs. And I don't know if any of you find this interesting or if anybody really cares, but I wanted to make this because I think sometimes when you see people getting ARCs, you see people getting early access to things, you as a fellow lover of books, you as somebody who would love to get your hands on something early, there can be this feeling of, well, it'd be nice if I had a channel so I get my hands on some books too. And I think there can be this sometimes accidental flaunting that can happen when people get ARCs. And so what I wanted to do to kind of balance against that is to mention some books that I did not get access to early. Mention some books that I requested and I was rejected for. And the first one, and kind of the thing that I would say sort of made me want to do this video, was the book Babel by R.F. Kuang that is coming out. At the time I'm filming this, it's not yet out, but it'll be coming out soon. So I have seen a lot of different people get access to this book early. I've seen a lot of reviews already going up, and I've talked to some people who have read it and have already loved it, enjoyed it. They can't wait for everybody else to get to read this book. And I also requested an ARC of this book, and I didn't get it. And it wasn't a personal, I emailed somebody and asked, like, can I get this please, or something. I did request it through NetGalley. I think a lot of you know what NetGalley is, but if you don't, NetGalley is a website where when ARCs are available, digital ARCs primarily, then you can put in a request for it. If you are given access to that, then you can then write a review for that book once you've finished it. And there's a way to see how many of the books you've received that you've actually written reviews for, because if you're constantly requesting books and never putting up reviews, obviously you're probably not going to continue to keep getting those books. But if you consistently get access to ARCs and then you do follow through, you write a review or you post a video talking more in depth about the book, you basically are doing marketing for the book in exchange for early access, then you're more likely to continue getting ARCs. I would say this year, especially, I have been very good about posting content about new releases. I do that for a number of reasons. I know that it is very helpful for a lot of authors. The period of time that you can pre-order a book, the first week of sales, things like that, they are tremendous in whether an author gets to continue on with the series or whether an author has a chance of getting signed for another book, things like that. So I know it's very, very helpful for the authors. Also, a lot of us do anticipated releases videos. We get excited about things coming out, and then sometimes it's crickets and you don't ever hear follow-up about those books. And so I try to ensure that I can follow up, let you know about some books that are going to come out or that have come out, because new releases are expensive. And because this is essentially what I do now, talking about books, I feel it's my job to use the time that I have to inform you, who probably has a different job, so that when you do spend your money on a book, hopefully it will be one that you have a pretty good idea of what you're getting into and whether or not it's going to work for you. I think that's good for the author. The more an author's books go to the right audience, the better. But then also you want to enjoy the books that you're spending money on. And third, I know that it is so much easier living in the US to get access to books. I know I am incredibly lucky not only to be living in the US, but I live in an area with a lot of great used bookstores. Sometimes I can take books in, get credit, and then use that credit on new books. So I'm very lucky in a lot of ways when it comes to accessibility, and I know a lot of other people aren't. It takes forever for books to ship to them. Books are really expensive where they live, if they can even get their hands on the books at all. And so I feel it's important for me to get that information out for all of you. That said, just because I've been pretty consistent with posting these new releases videos does not by any means make me think that I deserve to get any book that I want. That includes Babel. I don't think that just because I requested it means I should get it. Also, Babel does not need me. That book is already got so many ratings and reviews, and it's not even out yet. It's got so much praise already. R.F. Kuang's traveling. Oh my gosh, the amount of editions that this book has gotten. I know that there's special editions from various different retailers. I'm pretty sure that several different book boxes are going to have it. I know the Broken Binding is selling an edition of it. There's so many editions. There's alternate sleeves already being made for the hardback. So R.F. Kuang doesn't need me. That book doesn't need me. And I am not so arrogant to think that any of these books need me at all, regardless of whether it's somebody of her success or somebody who's kind of just getting into fantasy. But I was excited for this book. I am still excited for this book, and I didn't get my hands on it. And I just thought for anybody else who's requested it, wanted to get it early or something like that, maybe it'd feel good to know, oh, she didn't get it either. And also, I think if there's ever a time when maybe I'm not talking about a book as soon as it comes out, it might be because I didn't get access to the book early, not because I'm trying to give the cold shoulder to this one particular book. So I think it's also, this is a way to say, maybe I won't get around to this book. Well, I'm going to get around to Babel. But some of these books, if I don't get around to them immediately by talking about them now, hopefully that will at least lead to some people hearing about them and being like, that sounds interesting, and you might want to go check it out. So to elaborate on what I was just saying, that plays into the next book I wanted to mention, which would be A River Enchanted. So I've heard very good things about this one. I've heard it's beautiful and the writing style is fantastic. And I was excited to pick this one up because I've not yet read something by this author that is adult. I tried one of their young adult works and I didn't end up loving it, but I really liked their writing style and I was really excited to see that in adult fantasy. I also thought the writing style would fit adult fantasy very well. So I requested this one and I didn't get this one. And so this is a perfect example of I still really want to read this book, but because I didn't get access to it early and I couldn't jump into it immediately, then I wasn't able to get around to it when it came out. And so it's just kind of sitting on my list of new releases from this year I haven't read yet. And whenever I think about it, I'm like, dang it, I haven't gotten around to that one yet. And when the Goodreads nominations come out, last year I read a bunch of the Goodreads nominations and did sort of bulk reviews for them. And I have a feeling that this one is going to end up, and I'll end up reading it toward the end of the year just because it's probably going to be one of the nominations. The next book is not a new release from this year, but actually last year. And this one, this one may have made me the saddest when I was not given access to this one. I was like, dang it. And that would be, it's called The Bone Maker. One, it's a fantasy standalone, I believe, and I'm a big fan of fantasy standalones. But beyond that, I quite liked the Queens of Renthia trilogy. And last year and in 2020, I think primarily 2020, but it was a combination of 2020 and early 2021, I feel like I was mentioning the Queen of Blood and just in general this trilogy, the Queens of Renthia. I felt like I was talking about it all the time. And if you're like, what is it? I don't remember you talking about it. Do you remember me talking about a book with a forest setting? And I'm like, oh, it has the ultimate forest setting. There's these things called, like, there's these spirits in the forest, and the spirits try to harm people because they have this instinct to protect the forest, and humans, by living within the forest, harm the forest, so then these spirits want to attack humans. And so if that rings a bell, that's the series I'm talking about. So it's the same author, and I was like, oh, I love this author's other series. I didn't love the ending, but I love the series as a whole, and I loved the setting. I thought it was really cool, and I was like, oh, cool, a standalone by this author. I can't wait. And then I got rejected and I was like, darn it. But it still sounds really cool. I do still plan to read it. And I'm going to read the synopsis to you in case it sounds cool to you. So it says, 25 years ago, 5 heroes risked their lives to defeat the Bone Maker Eklor, a corrupt magician who created an inhuman army using animal bones. But victory came at a tragic price. Only 4 of the heroes survived. Since then, Kreia, the group's leader, has exiled herself to a remote tower and devoted herself to one purpose, resurrecting her dead husband. But such a task requires both a cache of human bones and a sacrifice. For each day he lives, she will live one less. She'd rather live 1 year with her husband than 100 without him, but using human bones for magic is illegal in Voss. The dead are burned, as are any bone workers who violate the law. Yet Kreia knows where she can find the bones she needs, the battlefield where her husband and countless others lost their lives. But defying the laws of the land exposes a terrible possibility. Maybe the dead don't rest in peace after all. 5 warriors, 1 broken, 1 gone soft, 1 pursuing a simple life, 1 stuck in the past, and 1 who should be dead. Their story should have been finished, but evil doesn't stop just because someone once said, the end. How good does that synopsis sound? It sounds so good. On that same note, the same thing can be said for Castles in Their Bones. I am quite the fan of Laura Sebastian's young adult books. I read the Ash Princess trilogy, and by the way, my husband always calls my books by different names. So for example, with Mistborn, he calls it Fogbirth, and with Ash Princess, he always calls it Trash Princess. I always am about to say Trash Princess on accident because I hear his voice in my head. The Ash Princess trilogy, I felt like it was such a page turner. It was so entertaining. It constantly kept me engaged. And I was surprised because throughout the reading of the first two, I was like, this is a fun series. And the third book actually kind of hit me a little bit in the feels, as people say. I was like, dang it, this is actually making me pretty sad at the end of the trilogy. So in general, I really like her young adult works. And Castles in Their Bones, she kind of was returning to young adult fantasy. I thought it sounded so fun. It was a court intrigue story. And then I didn't get access to the arc. And I was like, oh, what do you know? I didn't get it. I still read it because I was still really, really, really excited to come back to her young adult fantasy writing. And I did quite like that one. I thought it was so fun. I thought the intrigue factor was done very well. And she continues to be an author whose writing I find very, very entertaining and engaging. But it just goes to show that even when you love an author, even when you love another one of their works, even when you've talked up their other works and you have video, I think there's this idea like, oh, well, if you are a huge fan, you'll definitely get it. Or if you have a lot of subscribers, or if your videos about that author's works have a lot of views, you'll definitely get it. It's not the case. Sometimes you just don't. And if you're like, I wonder why you didn't get it, I don't know. When it's digital, it's very impersonal. You request something, and then usually it's like, you've been accepted, and then sometimes it's like declined. And it is part of why I wanted to make this video is because sometimes the ones that I get accepted for, I'm surprised and I can't believe that I've been accepted for it. And then other ones that I get declined for, I'm like, really? I would have thought I'd have gotten that one. So I just think sometimes it goes against our expectations. The last one that I'll mention for today would be Daughter of the Moon Goddess. This is one that came out this year. I did get around to it. I did enjoy it. And I am very excited because the sequel is also coming out this year. I quite liked this one, and I have to say, I actually was happy in a weird way that I didn't get an arc of this one, because there are a lot of discussions about arcs ending up in the hands of people who are most going to connect to the story, appreciate the story. And I think the idea that, oh, if you have a big channel, or if you have a lot of views or things like that, that idea that you get first dibs over somebody who likely would be the target audience, somebody who would likely be able to appreciate and connect with that book and review it in a way that someone else couldn't. The idea that numbers should come before love and dedication and devotion and excitement and just being a fan. The fact that that sometimes seems like it comes second to numbers upsets me. I don't like that. This is a story that is heavily based in a lot of Chinese mythology, the world building, the details within it. Those are the sorts of things that I wouldn't be able to talk about with any kind of extended knowledge. I could tell you what I thought of the story, I could tell you what I thought of the characters, I could tell you what I thought of the writing itself, but a lot of those world building details, I'm not going to be able to appreciate. And so I would rather, if there's only so many to go around, I don't know the situation, I don't know if this is even what happened, but if there are only so many to go around, while I want to do what I can to hype up new books, to try and do what I can to help authors have more success and to keep following their dreams with writing, while I want to do what I can, I also want to ensure that the people who should be getting arcs are the ones getting the arcs. So if there are people that were able to analyze so much more of what was being put into that story and were able to appreciate it and discuss it far more than me, I would rather those people be the ones to get the book. I would love to know if you are somebody who also is a book reviewer in some fashion, whether that be you have a blog or an Instagram or a channel. I would love to know your experiences with requesting arcs. I pretty much use NetGalley, but I know not everybody does, and sometimes they get their arcs in different ways. So if you want to elaborate on that, feel free. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.